this whole project, of course, is based on the idea or the theme of the Follia, which is this very old medieval or Renaissance dance from the Iberian Peninsula. And already in the word Follia, we have the idea of a type of madness or some sort of craziness, folly, something which is sort of on the edge of normality, if you like. And in this, we have found it quite interesting to collaborate with Museum Ovartachi, where, of course, we have a museum that deals with, you could say, art or states that are somehow on the edge of normality, and that also are producing wonderful creative things, except for obviously dealing with very important matters of identity, and all of this is then also expressed into art. The Follia naturally covers also these ideas. Originally it was this, you could say, carnivalesque dance of sorts, where peasants would dance in wild and crazy ways. They would somehow bend out from the everyday, and here they could somehow let some of that steam out in a certain way. And the Follia has some of that wildness in it. Of course, then throughout music history, we have seen how the Follia has developed in many different ways. And we could say the notion of constant progress is of central importance here, as something that we as humans are somehow condemned to. We are always progressing, and maybe it's not in a linear fashion. Often we go back again and we have to reinvent things and so on. But with each Follia and each reinterpretation of a Follia, we inevitably will forget what went before. And of course, with this project, it is rather that same process, which opens up a lot of creative avenues, and certainly it will also the fact that we are playing at Museum Ovartachi, and here have the link between the painted or the visual art and then the music. And it is also very near to the structure of the Follia as such, because obviously we have a theme, we have something given, a sort of normality, if you like, and from that we go on through a number of variations of normality, things on the edge of normality, maybe some kind of crazy states along the way, before we sometimes return to the theme, which then no longer sounds as it did in the beginning, or sometimes we maybe even don't return to the theme. We end up in a different variation. And so this project, and very much inspired by Museum Ovartachi, is very much you could say, a travel in the variations of the human mind.
For me, this is a very interesting project because this is kind of the first theme, in a way, of modern classical European music, and it has kind of this eminent power of being like almost like a force of nature. It always spoke to this kind of deep sense of connection to history, like we all know it from before. Maybe even before we were born. While I started rearranging the Carl Philipp Emanuel Bach, La Follia España, and Rachmaninoff's variations on a theme by Corelli, I started like thinking about, okay, if I had to contribute to this La Follia, for me it would make sense that it kind of developed the same way I felt nature was developed. So my La Follia theme is called La Follia Natura, and for me it has this moving pattern which is always like going in circle but always moving forward, and I feel that is kind of like what nature is and what this kind of 8-bar theme is.
Det har været en vild fed oplevelse at være med i Ensemble Hermes, og jeg har lært virkelig meget. Ensemble Hermes har jo ikke nogen dirigent med sig, og det gør også bare, at man virkelig skal være på hele tiden. Der er altid en åben dialog i ensemblet, og man er ikke bange for at komme med forslag til, hvordan det skal spilles. Og jeg har også fået rigtig meget kunstnerisk inspiration.
Det, jeg synes har været allerfedest ved at være med, har været, at det har været lidt ligesom at være i praktik. Og se, hvordan de arbejder, og hvordan de arbejder sammen og kommunikerer, når de holder prøver, og hvordan de arbejder sammen om at skabe den her musik og få det til at blive til virkelighed. For de har jo bare fået noget fra komponisten, og så er det ligesom deres job at få den musik, at formidle den. Og det synes jeg har været vildt fedt at være en del af. Altså, det har været super inspirerende som violinist også, fordi de selvfølgelig er noget længere end der, hvor vi er som studerende lige nu. Ligesom at kunne absorbere noget af al den energi og al den passion, som de har for det, de laver. Og ligesom forsøge at kunne tage noget af det selv og bruge det, og forsøge at ligesom give noget tilbage. Og der er en hel masse udveksling af energi, når man spiller sammen i sådan en gruppe. Og det har været vildt fedt at få lov til at dele den energi med dem. Så det håber jeg, at man kan tage med, når man selv spiller fremover. Selve musikken, som vi spillede, var jo også en helt ny oplevelse for mig at spille noget, der er så... Altså, det er ikke standardrepertoire, sådan noget, der har eksisteret i mange hundrede år, som er blevet gennemtærsket igennem. Og det har været fedt at arbejde med. Jeg ligesom hører musikken for allerførste gang. Og der er aldrig nogen, der har hørt den før. Og det er første gang, det ligesom ser dagens lys. Og det er første gang, at det bliver spillet for et publikum. Så havde vi også en meget god snak med Nicolas, inden projektet overhovedet gik i gang, om hvad hele baggrunden for den her musik er, som er blevet lavet, eller som er blevet skrevet til den her koncert. Og det har også bare været fedt at kunne tage den samtale med ind i, når man begynder at så arbejde med musikken, og ligesom have den viden og allerede have ligesom en intention med musikken, før man begynder at spille den.
So the project Follia Anomalies Travel Toward Modern Madness is a collaboration with the students of Royal Academy of Music, Aarhus, with the Danish composer Balvig, with the string Ensemble Hermes, and with the Museum. We explored the evolution of the theme of La Follia. So we started with the Follia from the 15th century, and we go over the classical period, the Baroque period, of course, the Romantic period, and we end with a newly composed Follia by Balvig. This project is for me very interesting musically because we work with only 8 bars and then we develop it and we can see how imaginative were all the composers. And I think it's also reflect a little bit the life of their time and the style of their time. What was really interesting for me was to share with the students differently. I was not in a relation like teacher-students, but mostly like musician to musician. And of course we spoke about violin technique, how to play together without conductor, or the style, or what do we want to do musically. But what was also very interesting for me was to talk about some deep question, I would say, some societal question. Because with this partnership with the Museum of Artacci, we could speak a little bit about the madness, about the border between madness and creativity, or what is the responsibility of the musician in the society, all these quite big and interesting questions. And I hope, and I think, it gives a little bit of food for thought for the students. And maybe also develop a little bit their creativity.